Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Hi, and welcome back to Take the Leap, the podcast. I'm Tory with Imagine Marketing Strategies. And
I'm Ashlan with AshbeanPDX Marketing. I love the pointing.
And we're, I know. I don't know. I just feel like I'm a hype woman today or something.
Yes, I love it.
Pointing you up. Anyway, welcome back. We're really excited. And we are going to talk today about entrepreneurship and the perils of procrastination and time management. Ashlan, this is a big one. I struggle with this still on the daily. What about you?
I try and I try and I try. I mean, I'm in the process right now of developing a new system that will keep me accountable. So, we've talked, there's handwritten notes, there's other handwritten notes, there's planners, I have a big old whiteboard over there that sometimes reminds me of stuff, so it's always a work in progress, as is everything in life.
Exactly. And you find one system that works for you and then you find a better one, or then you find 10 more. I too have a wall calendar. I have a whiteboard. I have a day planner. And then I have the notes app in my phone, which is my favorite because I will sit there in the middle of the grocery store and add things to it. So, at the end of the day, you do what works for you, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I think, I know you have some thoughts on this, so maybe I should let you kick off what you think about this. But I have some notes here on all the things I've learned from procrastinating as an entrepreneur.
Well, there's two things. You can either look at it as procrastination or reprioritization. We can flip language around all the time. But yeah, I try as much as possible. Like, the things that I feel have worked for me is putting forward the one thing what is the one thing that you would feel very excited about that you finished today. And that's in like position number 1 in my little daily calendar of like, this has to get done. And if it doesn't, then I can beat myself up about it. But, and make space, make time in your calendar to do that day. And then from there, pick one thing that really moves the rock, up the hill every single day. Knowing, is it Sisyphus? Sisyphus is the one that's always moving the boulder up the hill. As long as you keep it moving forward and don't let it run over you, I count that as a win. So yeah, that's usually how I try to do it, is like, what's the one thing? And then on days, there will sometimes be days where I have back to back meetings where I'm just like, you are not going to get the one thing done. So what can you leave space for in the next days? And being really, I track my time and the time I spend on doing things. Cause sometimes you're just like, gosh, how did I get nothing done today? But you made incremental progress on a lot of things, like maybe you wrote the copy for your sales page. Maybe you crunched the numbers and you chose the price of your new offer. Maybe you researched a bunch of places to host your summit. There could be a lot of things that you made progress on. Maybe you didn't complete the entire project, but you got, progress over perfection is probably better than worrying until it's completely perfect. How about you? I feel like I've talked a ton about it, but yeah,
No,
what are some of the tricks that you have for time management?
Yeah, well, completely agree with everything you just said. It's probably been one of the number one struggles as a newer entrepreneur over the last few years is shifting from having someone else determine what my priorities are and when I do things to making my own schedule, which we talked about in the previous episode. It was a perk, but it can also be a little bit of a downfall at times. So I guess one of the things that can happen that before I kind of get into some tips, one of the things that I've noticed with my time management and procrastination is if I really put off kind of the projects that I don't want to do, that kind of gives me a clue, right? Of why am I putting this off? Why am I not doing this? Is this client relationship not working for me? Is this project not working for me? Do I need to kind of change up my service offerings? But then the other thing is if I'm constantly running behind on client work, I innately prioritize client work over my own work, my own marketing initiatives. And I have found especially this last year in particular, I prioritized a few clients so much that I didn't do that much in my business this year that I wanted to do. And so learning from that, schedule blocking is one thing that I find really, really helpful. I have also found that I ignore those schedule blocks completely, depending on the time of month, the day, how I'm feeling, whatever it is. So, finding systems that work for you. And I think for me, creating little habits like, I don't do well working really early in the morning. I like to get up, have coffee, have breakfast with my son, have some time first. And then I like to start usually somewhere between 8 and 9. And so if I know that the first thing I do when I log into my computer every day is going to be, for me, it's writing out my priorities and kind of how I'm feeling and everything like that, instead of checking my emails, checking Instagram, checking, all those things, I know that I'm going to be more productive because I set that intention. So that's what works for me. For you, it might be schedule blocking, or I love the idea of, because I also have a huge master to-do list. I love the idea of identifying like the top thing that you need to get done that day. A therapist told me a while ago that you having 20 things on your to-do list every single day is not only unrealistic, but you're never, like, if your brain sees that every single day, you're never going to get through it. And realistically, most people can only get through 2 to 3 things a day, like actual tasks, actual projects a day. So if you kind of just switch that expectation a little bit of, because I think every time I see my to-do list, I'm like, well, I can get through these 20 things, no problem. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, no, I didn't do those 20 things.
Yeah.
I think switching that perspective and saying, okay, I know that realistically, I'm probably only going to get done 3 things. So what do I need to get done for my business? What do I need to get done for my clients? And what do I need to get done for myself? Because I also want to prioritize the rest and the self-care. And, we didn't go into business for ourselves to just work really, really, really hard and then miss out on life too. And so that I'm not perfect at this the new system yet, but it's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah. I laugh at you, by the way, because you're like, I like to get started by working by 8 a.m. Most people would be like, that your story leading up to that, I would have thought like 10 or 11. And you're like, 8 a.m. And I'm
that
like,
is true.
There's some people that like wake up at that.
And to be fair, not every day starts that early either, because it depends on if I have help with my son that day or not too. So there are some days where I actually don't even start till noon. Because that's just the reality of it when you have a toddler at home.
Parenthood. Yeah.
But I like in a Yes,
Perfect
in a
world.
perfect world, I start by 9. And that's given me enough time to wake up because my toddler wakes me up at like 6 every day anyway. So
Mhm.
I've
You have a
already been
built-in
awake for 3
alarm
hours.
clock. Yeah,
I have
you've
a
got an
built
alarm.
I've not set my alarm clock in ages. I don't even remember when, honestly. And so I've been up for a few hours at that point, but I am not starting work at that point.
Right.
There's just no way. I know people who get up that early to start work. My husband is one of them. And my brain does not function before it's light outside and
That's
before the
fair.
third cup of coffee. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's just how it is.
That's how it is.
That is
Yeah,
funny. I did tee that up for like
like a
I start work
really
at 2
late
in the
start.
afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you are an entrepreneur that is a night owl that wants to do that,
Yeah.
you can totally set those ways up. And I've been trying to retrain myself for my sleeping because I had years and years where I had East Coast clients, and I don't have any anymore. And so I'm trying to stay up later so I sleep in later so I get up later when the sun is up, because that is always easier for me. I'm very much a sun child, and being able to say, oh, no, I don't take really early morning meetings. My first meetings start at 8 or 9, and yeah, trying to shift that pattern for myself as well. And it's so interesting that you say we never make time for our own marketing, because I am guilty of that as well. And so that is one of my goals for 2024, is to set myself up for success with that. Because I do have clients who say, wow, that's really good information. Like, why don't you have that, separated somewhere else? So one of the things that I'm trying to do is, we have those big tasks that are on our to-do list, right? But they're usually something huge. And so I'm trying to chunk things into smaller bits and pieces, especially on the content creation side. I have the content, the topic pillars I want to talk about. I'll do a brain dump, and holding this pen in my hand, but I'll do a brain dump of all the different things that we could talk about related to that. And then, the next step will be okay, for, that particular thing, is it a social media post? Is it a blog post? Is it a video? Is it this or is it that? So kind of breaking it down into what are the pieces of that itself, and then sitting down to either write it, film it, or do that, just kind of create the raw material. And then in a separate session, sitting down to edit and schedule it. Because I think a lot of times, and I know a lot of business owners don't do this. If you don't have the end-to-end time to do all of those things, then you just won't start it. And so I think batching similar tasks together is always helpful. For example, when I do invoicing, every invoice gets worked on. All the stuff gets put together. When I work on my QuickBooks and bookkeeping, I do, a month at a time and reconcile, but doing things together instead of being oh gosh, I'm going to do all my month end tasks together, you'll just get overwhelmed. But, saying, okay, this is a time for the bookkeeping, this is a time for the invoicing, this is the time for this, and blocking those out in your schedule, I think has helped me a lot more and been able to give the
Such a good
brain
idea.
space for it.
That's so smart. So smart. I love that because I too get really overwhelmed by projects that if you write it down on paper, come up with a month's worth of content. In theory, that could sound fairly easy, but then when it comes to actually doing it, it's like it takes me a while to get
Mhm.
going, right? And especially when it's creative projects for some reason. Well, not for some reason. When it's creative projects, you're using a lot of brain power
Energy.
and
Yeah.
you need to be in the right headspace, right? And so if you're in that space, take that creative time and batch it with other things. And if you're not in that space, then, what could you do instead to get yourself started? Maybe
Mhm.
outlining and, coming up with topics. And I love that idea. That's such a great idea. Just
Yeah.
separating it that way. I think it makes it more manageable when you make it in chunks.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that saying, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You've got to do the little things. I think that's another thing. You and I have both referenced that we have epically long to-do lists. I have been trying to kind of look at it and see, like, what is the thing that would take under an hour? What is the thing that would be
Yeah.
really fast if we just did it to kind of clear those things out? Because I do think that we have a tendency to try to do the biggest rocks first. And
Yeah.
honestly, if you've ever seen that, they always do it usually in a science class with students, and they'll put big rocks in a jar and be like, "Can you fit more in the jar?" And the kids will be like, "No." And then he puts like pebbles in it and then sand and all of this, and so you know it's kind of the reverse engineer of that. Clear out
Mhm.
the sandy things that tend to get in the way of you being able to put
Get
in
those
the
done.
big rocks, because they show it the opposite way. If you do just the sand, you can't put the rocks in. So it's being able to know what those big rocks are, but also to clear out space that you can turn those into smaller pieces and chunks that are worthwhile and accessible to
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and even just energetically, knowing that you have so much to do can just get you in a funk of, I'm never going to get this done. Whether you are actually saying that out loud or it's just kind of in your head, like in the back of your head. And so, yeah, clearing those easy things that can just get off your list so that you are no longer have them in your brain, I think is just so helpful. Clearing your mind and making it easy for you to focus on those big projects. Yeah, I
The
agree.
nagging to-do list. Also, I mean, this is my own downfall. Delegate the list. I think that's been one of my big things. Is I have always been that person who I know who can do things fast and efficient and well, but being able to say, wait, is this my higher energy? Does this need my energy, my higher energy? I've been working on a ton of like standard operating procedures, so somebody else can take and run with things the way that I would. Because yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we as owners don't need to be doing. Like one of the nicest things that I've done is let somebody else control my calendar for me and set up things in a way that's going to leave, space and time for me to be doing the heavy lifting work of running the business instead of working in my business as much.
Agreed. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs and especially newer entrepreneurs could probably relate to that statement because um, they say that's one of the things, right? Like you are used to doing things your way. And
Mhm.
especially if you start a business out of something that you're really good at and you have been doing that practice for a very long time. And now you need to focus on the business and let someone else do that thing,
Mhm.
whatever it ends up being. And I think it's just really hard. You go into business for yourself because you like doing something usually, and then you realize, oh, this is taking me away from actually growing the business. I need somebody else to do this thing for me.
Mhm.
It's Yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like that's something that I hear all the time from clients, and they have a specific way that they want it done, and it's just easier, but in the long run, it's not. You're
Yeah,
really hurting yourself by spreading yourself too thin and thinking that you can do everything because you can't. No one person can do everything.
it's very true. Well, and if you look at, the long-standing, successful Fortune 500, not everybody's dream is to become like a Fortune 500 or Fortune
Right.
1000 company, but the owners of those organizations are not doing the piddly little things. They're there for vision, direction, strategy, building it up, being the face, and the visionary. And so remembering that that is your role as owner, is that you will be the captain of the ship as opposed to somebody who's trying to control the sails and the rudder and swabbing the decks and all of that. And I made a little analogy for a pirate ship there. However,
I liked it. I liked it. You know, sometimes business feels like being on a pirate ship. Not that I know
Mhm.
specifically what that feels like, but
Right. Yeah.
I feel like it's great.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to be like, torn in so many different directions. And so I think that, we talk about procrastination and time management. One of the reasons I do ridiculously track my time is to see what is available to give to another person. What could form a job description that ends up not necessarily needing to leverage me at all of the times as well. So yeah. Any other last minute thoughts on time management and procrastination, which we're all guilty of?
All of us. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think the only thing I want to say is, which I've already said, is prioritize you first. So prioritize your health and wellness. If you are not in the right space, you're not going to be helpful and move anything forward. And
Mhm.
then prioritize your business, and then prioritize your clients. Obviously, you need to do good work for your clients if you want to keep having clients. Um, but you set your own time, so make that work for you.
Mhm.
That's that's the only advice I have. And I'm not perfect at it every day. Nobody is.
Yeah.
But find the systems that work for you.
Yes. And it's so funny. We have talked about the setting your own schedule thing. If your brain is feeling really expansive and creative, that this is the time to do it. That's one of the things that I try to make space for in my mornings is if I'm like, oh, it could be a really good writing day, clear whatever else it was that you were planning on working on and use your energy and the way you feel to your advantage. Or, if you felt like you have a stuffy nose and have a sinus headache today, staring at a computer probably isn't the best thing, but maybe it's you are going to write by hand, or maybe you're going to do some audio related work or something else. So it doesn't, it can match the flow of how you are feeling. And so give yourself grace, entrepreneur. It's going to be a long, hard road, but you got what it takes to do it. And we're excited to be on this journey with you. And we hope that this is helpful for you as you take the leap into entrepreneurship today.
Yay.
Yay. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.